Okay, I will be talking about women's education in ancient Greece. So, to start out, women in ancient Greek society were often just like expected to stay at home, and so they were expected to take care of their houses and their husbands and to raise their daughters. And they were to raise their daughters in ways that they would then take on a similar role as them, so as the women. And so, oftentimes, the larger positions in society were reserved for the men. So, women's education in ancient Greece. Most women were expected to stay at home, and so they were not able to receive a full formal education. And at the beginning of when girls were very young, they would be put into school, and then as soon as they got to an age where they could be of more use in the house or begin a family, they would then be taken out of school. So, young girls in school, at first, about 91% of girls throughout the Greek population would be in school. However, as the girls got older, like I just said, the percent of girls would drop by 50%. And because they were needed to stay in their homes, and so this took away pulled them out of their formal education, and it just like completely took them away from the opportunity of ever having a real full of education, like the boys got to have. So it ended up that it would be mainly boys in school, and so throughout Greek society there was still progression, and so philosophers spoke about women, and Plutarch said that women were still very clever, and they were smart in a different way, they were still respected by men, but it was just in a different way because they did not have a proper education. And so even male philosophers spoke about women being educated because they knew that it was important, even though it was not happening in Greek society. So women, even though they were being sort of told that they had to stay in their homes, women pushed through that and they remained strong. And so women would oftentimes educate themselves, and it would basically be a bunch of women getting together and they would all share their own knowledge. And some women would hear from what men were saying, or just be out and like hear what was going on and hear things that they knew they needed to know, and so then they would all share with each other. And so eventually women's education evolved, and there are ancient sources that still did not have evidence of Athenian women being educated, but there are sources that show evidence of Spartan women being educated, which is very important because although Athens was sort of the center of Greece, and if something happened in Athens, it would sort of sprout to the rest of Greece. But because women were being educated in Sparta, just like that shows that women would eventually be also allowed to be able to get educated in Athens and just throughout all of Greece. And the fact that the ancient Greek women did not let the men not allowing them to be educated stop them, it really shows through today. And now we know of female philosophers and ancient female Greek philosophers, and it really just like shines through today. And so in places like all girls schools, the philosophers, the ancient female philosophers, and the women who pushed through and proved that they should be educated and allowed themselves to be educated are taught about today, and it just really shows through on how women are able to be educated today, and how it's all because of the Greek women and how they persevered through the times that they were not allowed to be educated. So, yeah.